Hi, Raglan Road. Good to be with you. One of the reasons why we're currently starting a series on the Sermon on the Mount is it's a great way to help us understand how Jesus sees things, how he sees our world, our relationships and our society. And in our society at the moment, we're using this word justice quite a lot. We all want to see a just and fair society, a society where each and every person knows that they're valued, knows that they're respected, knows that they are treated with dignity. Now, sadly, today we have far too many examples of the complete opposite, far too much injustice. And often what goes hand in hand with injustice is the word hatred. Justice should connect us to the opposite of hate, which of course is love. And Jesus offers us a vision of that just and loving society through his teaching, through his parables, through his words, just like the Sermon on the Mount, but also, of course, through his deeds and his actions. And of course, ultimately, through the way that he lived and he died on the cross for us. It's our job to point the way to Jesus. It's our job to show our world that he is the way, the truth and the life, and that he points the way to true justice. Now, people who point the way to God in the Bible are called prophets. And likewise, we are to be people who point the way to Jesus. Now, one of my favourite prophets in the Old Testament is Amos, a very reluctant prophet, someone with no aspiration for being a prophet. And Amos had this vision in Amos 7:7 of the Lord holding a plumb line, essentially a vision of what is true, right, just and good. And the plumb line is God's righteousness and God's justice. And the plumb line is the place where I want to go to and I want to be, but I am not there. And as well as showing me righteousness, it also exposes my faults, my failings, my hypocrisy and my injustice. And of course, in Amos's day, it exposed Israel's failure. They carried on pretending that everything was okay. They recited prayers, they carried on in worship, they observed rituals, but the plumb line revealed that they were actually taking advantage of the vulnerable and the poor. They were being greedy. They were using their power and privilege to oppress others. And for many of us, this has been a time of a revelation of our own injustices and our own prejudices that all of us are capable of. We're all capable of injustice and oppression. And we can all carry on with a veneer of religion, but there is a simple solution. In Amos 5 verse 14 to 15, it says, "Seek good and not evil, that you may live, and so the Lord, the God of hosts, will be with you, as you have said. Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate." Now he goes on, of course, to tell them that he hates all their religious festivals, their prayers, their sacrifices and their songs. Because without justice and without righteousness, those religious activities are just noise. But our prayer is in Amos 5 verse 22, to let justice roll down like waters, like a river, righteousness to roll down like a never failing stream. So I pray as we consider the Sermon on the Mount in these coming weeks, as we seek Jesus, the perfect example of love and justice, as we point people towards him, there'll be a river that flows of justice and righteousness. We need to point people to Jesus, to his selfless act on the cross, to his deeds, to his words, to his teaching, to the way that he serves with compassion and generosity and humility, to do the work of justice. That includes feeding the poor, that includes protesting for justice, but doing it as the people who proclaim also the gospel and point people to Jesus. All those things are part of our prophetic calling. Prophets don't have it easy. It's not easy work to be a prophet. It's very risky work. And often it's very misunderstood work. And those that do these things are not seen as normal. They're not the normal part of the church, but actually acts of justice, acts of righteousness, generosity and selflessness must always be the norm. And justice is part of who we are and what we do as the body of Christ in the world. So I encourage you to dream for it, imagine it, protest for it peacefully, show it, live it, proclaim it, and let's see justice flow like a mighty river in our streets and our neighbourhoods.